One of the most confusing parts of Coraline is the fact that this girl continues to accept food from the Beldam. Even after the transformation happens and Coraline knows that this is some kind of she-demon fairy succubus monster that stole her parents and is up to nefarious things. Seriously, even babies are wired to look at their parents to see if the parents are eating a food before they try it, so that way they don't end up eating something that will make them sick. But Coraline has no regard for this genetically predisposed condition and eats whatever is slid in front of her. Like, my good little madam, you are worried about your safety around the other mother. How do you know this food isn't filled with poisons or a paralytic chemical? Coraline is just so arrogant and foolish every chance she gets. And to highlight that issue, we're going to talk about the deal she's about to make with the Beldam. Also, she can try to win her parents back in a game. That's not how life works. Hey guys, welcome back to The Fangirl, where we are getting towards the end of dissecting Coraline scene by scene. I'm your hostess, McGann, and I know some of you really like this series, so I'd love it if you'd comment with some ideas of other shows or movies that you'd like to see in the future. Now, there is some talk in my house of my daughter and I discussing each episode of My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, so chime in for that if you want it. And I know I did start the Barbie movie late last year, but no one has really been watching it. So I'll do part 3 for that installment, and if it doesn't have a big viewing boost, I probably won't continue with Barbie due to lack of interest. But we are getting into a really exciting part of Coraline now, and I'm so excited to keep digging through the details with you. Coraline has entered the Beldam's lair. She's seen everyone looking way scarier than before, allegedly because the Beldam is running low on energy now. And we could hear the squeaky writing of Mel while she's trapped in a snowstorm at some unknown location. Then Coraline is called to come to breakfast in the kitchen, and we see the Beldam towering over the stove at about 8 feet tall. She's humming to herself while cracking eggs, and it is the same tune that we hear in the intro of the film while the doll is being made. Coraline at first looks very irate as she stands in the doorway of the kitchen, but a voice echoes in her head to be strong. So she sits at the kitchen table where a bead of sweat comes down her forehead as she notices the gift box with the button eyes is right in front of her plate. The buttons are surrounded by toast, butter, various jams, and I'm not sure, cinnamon coffee maybe? It looks more like hot cocoa, but that's not really associated to breakfast. But you're also not supposed to give kids coffee, so I don't know. And the Beldam has not even acknowledged Coraline yet. She's still singing to herself, flipping her extra greasy bacon and whipping up her eggs. So Coraline decides to take a hold of the tension in the room, and she says, "Why don't we play a game?" To which we see the Beldam gets a flash that goes across her buttons, like she's a sleeper cell agent that just heard her code phrase. And Coraline, even though she doesn't see the Beldam's reaction at all, nudges with, "I know you like them," referring to the games, of course. And the other mother very awkwardly says, "Everybody likes games," with a strange pause in there as if she's trying to think of the word games just slipped out of her head. However, the Beldam is in complete control here. So what is the need to play coy and not sound too eager? So the Beldam, trying to play it cool, queries about what kind of game it would be. Coraline tells her it'll be exploring and finding things as a game. Then the Beldam wants to know what she'd be finding as she taps her fingers against the counter. And just an interesting detail, it may or may not mean anything, the Beldam's fingers go in the opposite direction as Mel when Mel gets irritated with Coraline. Mel does what is normal to me, where you start with your index finger and roll down to your pinky, but the Beldam does pinky to index finger. Anyways, Coraline tells the Beldam that she wants to find her real parents in this game, and the other mother says that's too easy, because even she realizes that the movie has given us a dozen obvious clues at this point. So Coraline quickly adds in that she would also have to find the eyes of the ghost children, to which the beldam turns around, smirking and serving her omelet and bacon to Coraline, asking what happens if she doesn't find them. Now, I know this does kind of feel like normal questions that someone might ask about the boundaries of a game, but the other mother is very much making an ironclad verbal contract here. So she's wanting to get every detail explicitly laid out and agreed to so that Coraline is stuck. And the worst part is the beldam would be able to go, "You made these terms, not me." So Coraline makes the offer to stay in the other world and let the beldam love her. Then she hesitates for a moment, probably hoping that the beldam would jump in and snap up the offer. However, when nothing is said, Coraline more reluctantly adds in that she'll also let the buttons be sewn into her eyes if she can't find her parents and all three ghost eyes. This causes the beldam to smile maliciously and back up into a power shot where she condescendingly asks, what happens if Coraline somehow wins this game? And Coraline demands the release of herself, her parents, the ghost children, as well as the extra interesting stipulation of, and everyone you've trapped here, which is a wise addendum to make, but it's also showing way more thought and foresight than Coraline's ever had before. And the beldam thinks for a moment, then sticks out her bony hand and says, "Deal," to which Coraline refuses to shake until she gets a clue. But isn't a clue technically cheating? And this is a game she hasn't even started yet, so I'm confused on why a clue would be expected. Not to mention, Coraline has never laid out how much time she gets to win the game. 10 minutes versus 30 minutes versus an hour versus a day is a huge difference in time. And as we know, that's going to come back and bite Coraline in the butt in a few seconds. But the clue she's given is, in each of 3 wonders I've made for you, a ghost's eye is lost in plain sight. And Coraline really pushes her limits here because she asks to get a clue regarding her parents too, but the beldam only chuckles softly to herself and taps her right button eye with her nail. I have no idea what that means. Maybe I'm watching you, or you only get one clue, or haha, it's all a trap? Because I am your mom and my eyes can look real at any time. I don't know, but it's creepy. So Coraline turns around and thinks for a few seconds as we continue to hear that tapping of nail to button. And when Coraline turns with her own hand outstretched, saying, "Fine, it's a deal," nothing is there, and the tapping noise has converted to a drip in the sink. The cinematography in this movie is insanely next level. Also, credit where credit is due. The beldam did serve Coraline food, but it looks like she doesn't touch it this time. So she's learning at least. And as Coraline surveys the room to make sure it's empty, she sighs deeply and asks to no one, what does she mean? Wonders. I mean, seriously, kid? You have the foresight to stipulate that the beldam has to release anyone she's trapped in the other world just to make sure you cover your bases, but you can't imagine that the literal circus and light show around the house might be considered a wonder? But luckily, the dripping of the water draws Coraline to the kitchen sink, and she notices the glowing garden out that window, which lets her put the pieces together. So yeah, further evidence that everything here is a setup, because the beldam started the tapping that turned into the dripping that ended up putting the garden in front of Coraline. And that's where we need to stop today. But before we get to the comments, let me backtrack on 2 details we already passed in the movie that I didn't fully notice until I was editing. First, in scene 29, when the cat is telling Coraline to challenge the beldam to a game, and the door to the other world opens and Mel Jones pops out, the cat turns around and runs in the other direction. Since that Mel was really the beldam in disguise, I'm sure the cat realized this before he took off, but once again, that doesn't bode well for being some kind of protector of Coraline, or even a good character. He doesn't even go, hey, that's the beldam, and run. He just runs. It does feel more and more like the cat is some godlike entity trying to keep the beldam in check. Yet he's not foolish enough to want to challenge a powerful creature like the beldam directly. The other thing I noticed is that in scene 28, when the cat leads Coraline to the hallway mirror and she sees the image of her parents, right before the parents manifest, I couldn't help but notice that the imagery we get looks alarmingly similar to the painting we talked about in the Otherworld staircase. The one where it looks like we're looking through a door at another open door that leads to a fantasy world. It just hit me that that painting is of the hallway, and it's that large, weird mirror that's the central subject. So if we were to stand on the porch of the Pink Palace, we have a door that looks straight into the mirror, and that mirror can be just a mirror, or a magical spying device, or a portal to another place. And that makes me think that this mirror is a lot more significant than we realize while watching the movie. It's also especially strange considering Miss Spink and Miss Forcible have this messed up mirror in their apartment, as if they're trying to keep themselves from being lured into the mirror, or perhaps to keep things from coming out of it. Oh, I'd love to get more thoughts on this mirror. Please comment. Okay, I also found some really good comments, so let me get to those before we run out of time. I'm doing my best to get videos done before my wedding day so I can take a few weeks off from filming. Hopefully you guys don't notice any disruption in my posting schedule, but if I suddenly miss a Saturday in May or early June, that's what happened. So Tabby Louise asked if Miss Spink and Forcible are in a relationship, are they friends, or are they family? According to the author Neil Gaiman, they are in a relationship, and I talked about that a few years ago in a video called, I don't know, something like Facties. So yes, they are supposed to be a couple in a long-term relationship, and this is before the United States allowed LGBT relationships to turn into marriages, but at least in the movie, Spink and Forcible really interact and fight more like siblings. They are not very loving or caring of each other. Then Lucia KC7KL said that they personally are living in China and they looked up the title of Coraline there, and the Pinyin characters mean mother and disembodied spirit, ghost, devil, something along that line. So Coraline in Chinese is titled Disembodied Spirit Mother, which really does give the whole thing away right up front. I love marketing and how things get changed in other nations, so this is a really cool detail to know. However, I wish there was a Chinese word that gave us a very definitive answer for what the beldam is, because it seems like that first character is very interchangeable. And I know, because I very briefly studied Chinese in college, that the accent on a word changes it drastically too. Although I didn't study long enough to get into writing, so I don't know if the accent and the writing are also connected in that same sort of way. So this is definitely a puzzle piece, and it's neat to know, but I wish that there was a firmer answer in that title. Finally, Pan is Catfish 7206 made a great catch that I didn't notice. The seed packets that Coraline sets in the windowsill, you know, back when we're positive that she's still in the real world, are these same types of plants that we see in the other garden later on. Plus, the seed packets are missing later in the movie. So did the mice take those for the beldam to plant in the other garden? I never considered that, but it makes a lot of sense. And the other father himself could have been formed from one of the pumpkin seeds. Maybe he was just the pumpkin who grew fastest, so the beldam turned him into a realistic boy and brought him into the house. And now that we're towards the end of the movie, she's throwing him back into the garden. Great contributions, everybody. Thank you for commenting. I might be overthinking it, but that's literally my job. And to any of my members here on YouTube, a huge bottom of my heart thank you for all of your help and support. If you would like to become a paid channel member, there is a link in the description below. Thanks again, guys. Love you. Well, family members, we're almost done, but I want to invite you to hang out with me in some other places. I'm on Twitter and Instagram as my own personal self, and I have a Facebook page too, but I mostly just post photos over there. And sometimes people say, "Hey McGann, I want to mail you something. How do I do that?" Easy. Just click the About tab on my channel page, and my most current P.O. Box info will be right there. I also run another channel, The Fanily. It's really a hodgepodge channel where we might post anything. Oh yeah, and I also sell shirts and stickers and stuff with the Fanily and the Fangirl logos. If that is your cup of tea, I have a link in every description of every video. Finally, if you want to help out the Fangirl channel and make sure I'm putting out video essays for years to come, the best way you can help is by subscribing and watching more of my videos, whether they're new, old, whatever. Maybe even share one or two on social media, help spread the word. People who watch to the end of videos, like you, helps to tell the site, hey, this is a good video, we should recommend it to other people. So if you made it this far, leave me a comment of something like, hey, I made it to the end. Love ya. See you next time, family members. Bye.